Hello, my name is Zheng Hao. I am excited to present our work, Weighted Flow Diffusion, for local graph clustering with node attributes. Let me start with an overview of our contributions. In this work, we present a very simple algorithm for local clustering in attributed graphs, based on the idea of reviewing edges from a Gaussian kernel and then locally diffusing mass in the graph. In order to study the effectiveness of our method, we present a theoretical analysis on the recovery of target cluster from a contextual random graph model. And finally, we present experiments over both synthetic and real-world data to illustrate our results. Our method uses local graph diffusion to explore the graph structure. In this work, graph diffusion refers to a generic process to spread mass from a C node to nearby nodes along edges in the graph. There are many different types of graph diffusions depending on the specific dynamics to spread mass. In this work, we focus on a recently proposed flow diffusion, even though the idea easily extends to other types of diffusions as well. In a graph diffusion process, mass tend to spread within well-connected clusters. For that particular reason, local graph diffusion can help solve local graph clustering problems. Here is a high-level description of a traditional diffusion-based local graph clustering algorithm. The input is a graph and a seed node. In order to find a good cluster that contains the seed, typically we run local graph diffusion in the graph starting from the seed. Then we check where and how the mass spread within G. Finally, we obtain a cluster by applying some rounding procedures. This type of algorithm does not work with node attributes, which can provide additional useful information. Therefore, in this work, we present a very simple variant. Say that each node comes with d-dimensional attributes. We define a weighted version of the original graph, whose attributes are computed from a Gaussian kernel. Then we run a weighted version of local graph diffusion in the reweighted graph, and we keep everything else the same. And this is basically the algorithm. So perhaps a more interesting question is to understand how exactly can attributes help. So let me start with a very simple example. And we are looking at a grid graph with no particular clustering structure. But suppose for now that we are giving a C node in the middle, and the goal is to recover a target in the top right corner. If we run diffusion in the original unweighted graph, there's no hope to ever recover the target because diffusion is going to evenly spread mass around the graph. On the other hand, if we are able to reweight the graph by assigning significantly small weights on the boundary edges, then this creates structure, and diffusion can perfectly recover the target. In order to formalize this, let us look at the following contextual local random model. We are given a set of nodes and target cluster. Edges inside the target appears with probability P, and boundary edges appears independently with probability Q. We do not assume anything about edges on the other places. In addition, every node I comes with d-dimensional attributes. And for simplicity, we assume that the attribute signal mu are the same for every node in the target. Moreover, we assume that the random noise vectors are independent with independent mean zero sub-Gaussian coordinates. Under this setting, giving a C node from the target cluster, the goal is to recover the target. And we present the following two results. In the first case, if we have very good node attributes, then we show that with high probability, local diffusion on the reweighted graph fully recovers target with zero false positives. And this is independent of the clustering structure. In the second case, if we have moderately good node attributes, then local diffusion on the reweighted graph fully recovers the target, while the relative size of false positives is jointly controlled by the signals from graph structure and node attributes. In particular, if you look at the expression for eta here, notice that in the denominator, a good node attribute helps significantly reduce the negative impact from external connectivity of the target cluster. And this precisely characterizes how node attributes can help overcome noisy graph structure. In the paper, we have extensive synthetic experiments to illustrate this. But let us look at how the algorithm performs over real-world data. In the table, we are looking at 20 clusters from 2 co-authorship networks. For each cluster, we run 100 trials from different signals, and we report average F1 score in the table. Observe that by using known attributes, we are able to increase F1 score by 4%. There are many more experiments in the paper. If you are interested, please take a look. And this is the end of my presentation. Thank you.